Hello. On progress or moral advance. This is chapter 4 of book 1 of Epictetus' Discourses. And this discourse, in this discourse, he actually discusses, he really reiterates a lot of the concepts that have been in the previous chapters and discussed in the previous videos. Surrounding what is progress for a person, or how is a person considered to be advancing, what is considered to be advancement, what is considered to be progress for a person. So those concepts are the kind of the standard Stoic concepts of virtue and excellence in one's life, and then balance that with sort of cultivating an inner tranquility, an inner calm, so that inner peace component as well, maintaining that while also striving then for sort of virtuosity in your life, virtue in your life, excellence in your life. So those two things, and then he also in this discourse he mentions a couple concepts that we talked about previously, which is staying true to your character, and then also understanding what's in your control and what is outside of your control. So he makes the point that a person who is progressing, there's a lot of different measurements, I think, that people misconceptions, I think, that people have about what is progress in their life. So Epictetus actually gives an example of a person who has read all of the works of a particular, another famous Stoic philosopher, Chrysippus, and he mentions that, if this person has read and memorized all these works, that's not necessarily progress, because progress would not necessarily be just the doing of that one act, because it would not necessarily have impacted. If you read and learn a bunch of things, but yet it's not actually developing your own, expanding your own virtue and excellence, or helping you understand yourself better, or helping you understand your character better, then it's not really contributing then to your progress. So he makes that point. So he discusses the first thing to make progress that a person needs to do is to, not behave necessarily on impulse. So if a person is just impulsively saying, oh, I think I'll go do this, I think I'll go do that, then that is not progress. That is just a person sort of blindly shooting in the dark and then hoping it all works out. So the first point of progress, I would think, I think he's trying to tell us, is that the person should actually understand their own will, understand what it is about them, what it is which direction they as their person needs to go, wants to go, and that's not necessarily easy. But I think everything basically, ultimately stems from that. I think an illustration of this might be someone who decides they're going to go to college or to university or to a training program because they want to get a better job. And it may be something they decide, I think I'll just study this because it will help me get a better job. And that's not actually, it might work out because that's just sort of an impulsive thing. It might not, because it might be something that the person actually has no interest in at all. It's not true to their character, so they're always going to be out of balance because they're going to have gone into the wrong field, because they didn't actually figure out with their own character and their own person what it is that they needed to do to expand to expand their excellence. So, I think that's actually a really good sort of, maybe a good illustration of how that you wouldn't be actually staying true to your own character if you did that, because you would be going outside of your character to pursue something that didn't actually push you forward as a person. So I have another example that I was thinking about this, as far as sort of relating to the idea of a person who has gone and done this thing, like, oh, I've read all the works of whoever, and memorized I memorized the Shakespeare sonnets or something. But if that didn't contribute to your being, then ultimately it's it's worth really nothing, because there's nothing to show for it other than to say that that's something that you did, and it would be no different than just saying, oh, I did this today. I mean, it's not, if it didn't contribute to your growth as a person, then it would not have value, and it wouldn't actually cause you to progress. So he made that point. So one idea that I had when I was reading this discourse was an example would be a person who let's say, we decided, oh, my closet is always messy and I want to have my closet clean. I want to have my closet tidy. I want to have my closet organized. And so the person goes and they spend a lot of time organizing their closet, and they get it all organized and everything looks fantastic, and they may say, oh, I made progress. Look at the progress I made. I got my closet organized this weekend. Actually, in what Epictetus is saying, that is not progress. That would not be progress. You would have a tidy closet for now, but you would not be a person who has a tidy closet. So I hope that makes sense. So, because unless you actually cultivate yourself to be a person who keeps their closets tidy, then your closet is not going to stay tidy. It is going to go back to being untidy. Your inner calm, or whatever, your inner peace, then will be disturbed when it gets untidy again, and so you will have not grown. You will not have progressed. Your virtue, your excellence, will not have progressed, because to progress you need to become a person who has tidy closets, not a person who just tidied their closet this one time. So I hope you can understand the difference there. The difference between having a tidy closet once and a person who has tidy closets, meaning you don't act on impulse. You don't just go in and you're mindful of your closet, and you're mindful of yourself and how you interact with your closet, because you understand that your closet, if it becomes untidy, it's going to affect your inner calm, and that would throw you out of balance. So that would be behaving that would not be progressing. So I hope that made sense. And then another example that I thought of was, a while back I had a friend who, was really keen on gardening, and he had a lot of knowledge on gardening and plants, and he was really interested in folk ways and folk knowledge of things like food and old recipes from vintage time, maybe old recipes, old ways of preserving food, like canning and pickling and these types of things. So he had a lot of knowledge in this area, and so he was sort of at loose ends of what to do. And we were having a discussion once, and I said, why don't you create a blog? Because I think you have a lot of really good and valuable information that you could share, and having known him for a while, I thought, well, maybe it would be a good suggestion for him, because it would be a way for him to sort of connect with other people who have similar interests, because I actually did not, at that point, share much of this interest, so it was not something that I could share with him, but I thought this would be a good way for him to maybe engage with another community who liked these similar things. And so he actually did start a blog, and he made a few blog posts, but then he got caught up with the traffic to the blog and the followers he was getting and the lack of them, and he got very discouraged like very quickly over the span of a couple of months, and he actually dropped the blog altogether because he became so focused on the numbers. He became so focused on this external thing. So he became so focused on his numbers, his traffic that he was getting to his blog. He wasn't getting followers, he wasn't getting shares and things for his blog, and so to him that became the focus of the endeavor. So it lost its virtuous focus, which was his own virtue and excellence, expanding his own virtue and excellence, and also his inner tranquility, and it became another goal outside. So we would say that he made a blog. This was not really progress, though, because he focused on something outside of his control and something external rather than something internal with himself. So it didn't turn out to be successful. And then finally, I wanted to bring up one other kind of really good example, I think, of a person who seems to have made progress but didn't make progress because they didn't focus on this virtue, inner tranquility, knowing oneself, being true to your character. That's maybe like a rock star or a person who has maybe a politician or a businessman who has had a lot of external success with what they do. They may even be extremely talented, and they may be seen by many people as having progressed to the top of some sort of field, like maybe a pop star or a very famous politician, or achieved a lot of power or a lot of money or all of these things. But yet they didn't practice this. The progress was not on their own inner tranquility. It was not with their own virtue and excellence, and they didn't, along the process, stay true to their character, and they had external goals that were not related to any of these concepts, and so they, at the end of it all, were not practicing what we would consider to be a Stoic type of progress. They had not met a Stoic type of progress. They may have met a certain type of monetary power, prestige progress, but they didn't actually make any progress because they didn't expand themselves. So they didn't hit. They may have achieved a lot of power, but they didn't achieve life virtuosity, which is what the ultimate goal for a Stoic is. So that's sort of the rundown of what he's talking about in that chapter, and I hope that you found that somewhat interesting or helpful. The chapter's actually got a lot of information in it. We could do a number of videos on this particular chapter alone, but that's sort of what the chapter meant to me. So the next discourse is called Chapter 5, Against Followers of the Academy. And I've read this discourse before, and even though it sounds like it will not be relevant or interesting to us today, it actually is, so stay tuned for that. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.